Good morning, students. Today we will continue with the chapter number 7, the circulatory system. Today we will study about pacemaker, the conduction system of heart. Both the sides of the heart pump blood at the same time. As the right ventricle contracts and conveys the blood into the lungs, the left ventricle contracts and pumps the blood through aorta to the body parts. The heart cycle of activity has two periods, systole and diastole. Systole occurs when the ventricles contract and diastole occurs when they relax. One complete contraction and relaxation of the heart makes up one heartbeat. The heartbeat must be controlled so that each chamber contracts only when filled with blood. To achieve this, the events of the cardiac cycle are carefully coordinated. This is the specialized tissue called the sinoatrial node. The single heartbeat starts with an electrical signal from the sinoatrial node on the walls of the right atrium. This acts as a pacemaker or the heartbeat regulator. A second node, the atrioventricular node, picks up the signal and channels it down the middle of the ventricular septum through a collection of specialized muscle cells called the bundle of His. From here, the signal spreads throughout the walls of the ventricles through the Purkinje fibers, and the ventricles contract after they are filled with blood. In human beings, to complete one cycle of circulation, blood flows twice through the heart, and the circulation is called double circulation. It consists of two types of circulation: pulmonary circulation, the circulation from heart to lungs and then from lungs back to heart, and the systemic circulation, the circulation of blood from heart to the body parts and from body parts back to the heart. The pulmonary circulation includes the movement of the deoxygenated blood from the heart towards the lungs and return of the oxygenated blood from the lungs back to the heart. The deoxygenated blood returning from the upper and lower body first enters the heart from the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. The deoxygenated blood enters the right atrium and is pumped through the tricuspid valve in the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, the blood is pumped through the pulmonary semilunar valve into the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery carries the deoxygenated blood to the lungs, where it releases the carbon dioxide, absorbs oxygen. The oxygenated blood from the lungs returns to the heart through the pulmonary vein. From the pulmonary vein, blood enters the heart again in the left atrium. In the systemic circulation, the movement of oxygenated blood from the heart towards body parts takes place, and return of the deoxygenated blood back to the heart. The left atrium contracts to pump oxygenated blood into the left ventricle. The left ventricle pumps oxygenated blood through the aortic semilunar valve into the aorta. From the aorta, blood enters into systemic circulation throughout the body tissues until it returns to the heart as the deoxygenated blood via the superior and inferior vena cava, and the cycle repeats. The conditions related to the functioning of heart. Palpitation of heart. It is a condition which takes place due to hard, rapid and irregular heartbeats that develop due to following reasons: skipping beats, fluttering or very fast beating of the heart, pumping harder than usual. A person may feel heart palpitation in the throat or neck as well as on the chest. Next condition is cardiac arrest. The sudden cardiac arrest is a condition in which the heart suddenly and unexpectedly stops beating. If this happens, the blood stops flowing to the brain and other vital organs. It may cause death if it is not treated within minutes. Its symptoms include loss of consciousness and abnormal or absent breathing. Sometimes people may have chest pain, shortness of breath, or nausea before this occurs. The next condition is hypertension. Blood pressure is the force exerted by the blood against the walls of the arteries. The magnitude of this force depends on the cardiac output and the resistance of the arteries. If the blood pressure is too high, it puts extra strain on the heart and it may lead to heart attacks and strokes. The blood pressure of a person is measured in terms of systolic blood pressure and diastolic blood pressure. The BP of a normal person is 120/80 mm Hg. The first one, that is 120, measures the pressure in the blood vessels when heart beats. The second one, that is 80 mm, is the measure of the pressure in vessels when the heart takes rest between the beats. Clinically, the blood pressure is measured by the instrument called sphygmomanometer. Along with the blood circulatory system, we also have the lymphatic system, which comprises of a colorless fluid called lymph, a network of lymphatic vessels, and the lymph nodes. Lymph is alkaline fluid that originates as interstitial fluid in our body and flows in the interstitial spaces between and around the tissues and cells of multicellular animals, including the human beings. It is colorless or straw-colored fluid similar to the blood plasma with lower protein content. The fluid matrix, when passes to the lymph nodes, as you can see in the figure, the lymph nodes, it receives the white blood cells, and unlike the blood, the lymph does not have any red blood cells. The lymph vessels, as you can see in the figure, they are the fine lymph capillaries joining together. The fluid travels through the lymph vessels and drains into the blood stream. The walls of the lymph vessels are thin and have numerous valves. All the small lymph vessels unite to form a large lymphatic duct. The lymph nodes are bead-like structures. They filter the lymph through the lymph nodes. The differences between blood and lymph. Blood is a red color fluid. Lymph is colorless or straw-colored. Blood contains plasma proteins. Plasma proteins are in very low concentration in the lymph. It flows in the blood vessels. It flows in the lymph vessels. Blood helps in transportation of various materials such as dissolved gases and nutrients. Lymph acts as a medium for the exchange of material between blood and the body tissues. Thank you.